Good evening, brothers, sisters, and gender-normal sisters. It's time to try something new with me, your host, Ollamh. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, we are going to be trying, trying not to sink. One. There we go. That's better. But yes, we're going to be trying to do some Blender. We're going to see how streaming Blender works and stuff like that. I've been getting back into it yet again, particularly towards trying to use isometrics to set up a scene. It seems like it's a much easier way of doing some sort of a scene of and stuff like that. I did one that a friend of mine did an isometric drawing based on a drawing that they had seen and stuff. And I kind of went and recreated that in Blender with marginal success. I gave myself only a day to do it, so. But yeah, I wanted to see how this works, how streaming Blender will work. How horrible is it going to be? With any luck, it's not going to be too bad. It doesn't look like Streamlabs is and Blender together are doing too much. Now, of course, we haven't gone into this scene with where we're actually looking at Blender yet. So yeah, well, let's go ahead and let's see what it takes to set up basically to set up an isometric shot and scene and stuff like that. So yeah, let's hop over to it. All right, and looks like everything is still good and solid. Excellent. So yes, here we are in Blender. We have a big empty scene. Nothing really going on right now. Now, of course, for anything, we need a camera. And with isometrics, there is a specific type of way that your camera should be set up. So let's go in Shift A and add in a camera. Now, the camera settings are kind of specific as far as angles and stuff like that. So the X rotation you want at 54.7. The Y should be 0.000004. And the Z should be 45. Now, if we come into if we press 0 and do camera view, wow, we've got kind of nothing. Let's go ahead and up our end point. But now if we go to orthographic, well, now we've got something. So we can pull out so that we're like actually seeing this. Now, in order to widen how much we're seeing and stuff like that, we can't just move the camera because the camera is locked in a very specific position. It's locked at that very specific angle and stuff like that. That's kind of the point of isometric, is you have a singular point. So with I think I usually go with like 25 on the orthographic scale. So if we do that, boom, we have a much bigger area that we are looking at. So there's our camera all set up, which is great. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. But that's only the beginning of the fun that we are going to have. So we need to add in a room. Basically, we are going to want a room for that. So we're going to add in a mesh cube. And I already looked up like the sizes and stuff like that. So we have this, if we come over here to this little yellow or orange square here, we can change the scale and everything. So the Z we want at 0.1. Now we're going to have a large bedroom. A large bedroom has the measurements usually of like 4.26 meters by 4.87 meters. So there's our floor. Looks great, looks wonderful. We can pull out from the camera view now and be like, yes, it's very nice. But, again, we need more stuff. So we need a cube, another cube. Now this one, we're gonna wind up copying a couple of times. So I am going to come up here to our tool setting. And I'm gonna say we wanna affect only the origin. And we're gonna wanna align it with edges. So we come over to our little magnet here at the top. We say edge, snap to edges, click on the magnet. And we wanna say grab on the Z. I really need to get a screencast for screencast for my keys. So we're gonna just put it on a corner. So we grab it on the Y, snap it to that edge, grab it on the X, snap to that edge. Now our origin is in this one little corner. Cool. So now with our edge select still on, we can snap it to that corner, snap to this corner, snap it down, grab on the Y, grab on the X. So now we've got it just in that corner. So now we want to set up the wall. So again, we want a thickness of 0.1. That's what an interior wall is roughly. On the Y, we are going to want 4.87 because we want it all the way out. Now on the Z, we're going to want about 3 meters. We're going to make it a big room, a tall, glorious room. So now we have one wall. Now we want to hit Shift D to duplicate that. Rotate on the Z. 90. But it's going the wrong direction, so we just hit it negative on the numpad, and boom. So now we want to say, okay, we want it butting up against this one. We want it to the edge of that. So now it's set up just right, but that's a little bit long. Because the X angle is 4.26, we actually want it to be 4.16 because we need to take into account the 0.1 thickness of the other wall. And if we look at it from the camera, that looks right. Now, the camera, we can move it up on the Z so that it's really centered and stuff like that. Looks great. Looks wonderful. Wahahaha. Except for there's a little bit of a problem. So if we add in a light, and we're just going to say a point light. We're going to say move it up. And if we come into our rendered view, this is one of the points where it's like, how is this going to work? And looks like it's working fine. So we see, well, the light's not really not putting out much light because it's only a 10 watter. So let's make it a 40 watt bulb. Well, now we have some, but the light from the environment is also being added into that. We don't want that. Now, we could just add walls and a ceiling, same as we did with cubes, but that's going to make it very difficult for us to see into the room and have nice, solid corners and stuff like that. And this is kind of where it gets a bit interesting. So we're going to add Shift A, we're going to add in a mesh, and we're going to actually add in a plane. We're going to rotate it on the X by 90 degrees. We're going to grab it and move it up on the Z. And again, we want to affect just the origins. So we want to say, grab on the Z, down here, grab on the X, down to here. That's good. So now we've got it in that one corner. So now we want to take the whole thing, making sure to remove the effect only origins. So we want to say, grab on the Y to here. We'll say, grab on the X to here, and grab on the Z down to here. Now, because we flipped it, the Y is in the up direction. Okay, so we want that to be 3. And we want the X to be, what was it, 4.16. And now we want to take that, we want to duplicate it, rotate it on the Z by 90. Grab on the X and put it here. And instead of 4.16, we want 4.77. And we want to duplicate that again, but we want to rotate it on the Y by a negative 90. By the Z, pop it up here. Instead of the 3, we want 4.16. There we go. So now we have a great and wonderful just box. If we look at it, well, we can't see inside of it. That's kind of a big problem with isometrics. Is you're supposed to be able to see through 2 walls and the ceiling in order to see the room. Otherwise, you could have the most beautiful scene in the world, but you can't see anything. And that sucks. So how do we get these planes to let us see through but not let light through? This is the key. This is kind of the key to doing isometrics in Blender. Well, we need to know a couple of things. We need to know the face orientation of these individual planes. So, if we come up here to our top row here, there's this little ball and ball that says show overlays. If we hit the downward arrow and we say overlays, we have this little checkbox that says face orientation. And if we click that, well, now everything's blue. But if we come inside, we see that the planes are red on one side, and that's what we want on the outside. So, in order to do that, we say tab, go into face mode. That's if you have, I think it's Machine Tools, a free add-on. Really, really nice. Highly recommend it. If not, if you don't have that, we come up to the top here, the top bar here where it says Object Mode. You go into Edit and click this third button for face. Now we want to come to, along this top menu bar, we say Mesh, Normals, and we want to say Flip. So now the red is on the outside. That is what the red denotes. The red, it says, that's the back face. And that's important. So we go back to Object, we come over here, we do the same thing. We say Mesh, Normals, Flip. Back to Object Mode. Now we can do the ceiling. Mesh, Normals, Flip. So now the front face is on the inside and the back face is on the outside. Now you may say, okay, well, what did that do? Well, if we click out of face orientation, we go to the rendered view, that didn't really do anything, did it? But now we're going to start working on the key aspect of it. So if we come over here and we say new, we come to our shading editor, shader editor. We click new material. We have this alpha. If you hit Shift A over in this panel, we can search for a geometry. This gives us access to the back facing. So if we plug our back facing into the alpha, and we take this material and we say, okay, we're going to put it on each of the planes. Well, again, didn't do anything. Unless you come inside the box. If you come inside the box, now the back face is perfectly opaque, but the inside is clear. So the actual the exterior lights are showing. If we turn our point light off, we can see that, yep, okay, so it's showing that, but the outside is, the back face is showing, but the inside face isn't, which is backwards from what we want. So if we come back over to our shader editor, we hit Shift A, search, we search for an invert. Now if we click, just drop this in between the two, it will invert that. So now it looks like, well, that's just black. But if we come inside, well, it's still black because there's no exterior lights coming in. So if we turn on our point light again, we can now actually you can see it from right here. If we're looking from the camera, we're looking at the back face of those two walls in the ceiling, we can see through them. But the exterior lights aren't getting through. That's important. And if we rotate around, say we set our camera up here, we actually see the inside of that wall. If we look at it from slightly down, we can see the ceiling. We come over here, we can see, so the inside of the wall is there, but the outside isn't, which is exactly what we want. That is just what we want. So if we take it from the camera view, boom, we have that. And if we press, I think it's F12, if we press F12, we can render this. And we drop a couple of frame rates as it's rendering. We drop a couple frame rates as it's rendering, but that's to be expected. So yes, that's exactly what we want. So now we have an actual isometric setup. Now, I prefer to, with the lights and stuff, I usually do 8 total lights. 4 for diffuse, 4 for glossy, 4 for transmission, 0 for volume because we don't have any, and transparent, I'll take it up to 16. That's just what I generally like. Now, the background, we don't have to see the background, so if we come down to film, we can turn on transparent. So now it's just gonna render the objects that we put in there. So there we go. That's the set. That is the basic setup for an isometric thing. So if we press 1 on the numpad, we'll get this. We'll get this view, and we say add in a secondary camera. Now, this is another thing that I didn't realize for the longest time is how to switch between cameras. There's actually like a teardrop, like a raindrop type thing here that's scene properties. Here you can change between the cameras. So just to make sure that we understand it, we're going to come up here. We're going to say camera 1 is isometric view. We're going to say realistic view. So now if we say realistic view, we hit Control-Alt-0. That's going to move the camera to there. And from here, we can move our camera where we want it. See, I actually want it back a ways so that it basically we're getting as much of the room as we can without any of the boundaries. So now if we come over to here, well, let's go ahead and do isometric view. And we're going to render an isometric view with the blank background. Now, on our rendered view window, if we come over to the slot where it says slot 1, we can go to slot 2. We can change this from isometric view to realistic view, and we render that. This one is taking a long time. Oh, well, we are actually in we're in the rendered view, which is not exact. You don't want to be in rendered view when you're actually rendering something. But with that done, we can come in here, we can say, all right, so this is how it looks from the outside. This is how it looks from the isometric view. And then if we come into slot 2, This is essentially the view from the wall. And from here, it's basically now we are down to just doing the texturing and adding stuff in. Now, just to make things easier, I want to go ahead and say make those planes invisible, because that's, you know, you can see through them in the rendered view, but you can't see them through them in like the textured view, or anything like that. So we want to have those turned off. Now you may be saying, okay, but if we go to try and model like panels in the wall, we're going to have a bit of a problem. Because we can model these and have these textured and stuff like that, and so that they're bits and pieces facing different ways with no problem. But if we try that with the plane, we can do it, but all of a sudden the front face may not be facing away from us all the time, which is a bit of a problem. So we're going to try something. We're going to say, let's bring in a material for that in our shading editor over here. Now we're going to say, search for a Voronoi texture. We're going to add in the customary color ramp. We'd say distance into here. There. And wow, we've got this really funky looking thing, don't we? We really crunch in those. It's just, it's all kind of weird. But what we want is actually the Chebaru, I don't know. And we want a randomness of 0. So we want this grid pattern. Now with the Voronoi, we're going to want to add in we're going to want texture coordinates. And from the texture coordinates, we're also going to want a mapping node. Now you can add these in really quickly with Node Wrangler. I know that. This is just kind of basic. So we want to say from the object into the vector, this vector into that vector. And now we have, well, a more intense pattern. But we want just like wood panels, where it's like even paneling up and down. So if we bring our Z value down to 0, well, now we've got just those panels. If we say affect the Y, we want, say, I don't know, let's try a 0.25. All right, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good as far as where we're going to have our panels and stuff. Now, if we crank up the black value, we're going to get thinner panel lines. If we crank up the white, we're going to get very distinct panel lines. So we put that at 0.5, it's too much. So 0.495. Let's put 0.45. That's too little. 0.475. That's good. Okay. Now if we say take this to be 0.478, we get really distinct panel lines. Say 0.5, we have a little bit of a gradient. We have a little bit of a gradient, which is fine. That's A-okay. But we're not going to have any depth. We're not going to have any sign of depth or anything like that. So we want to come back over to our shading panel. We want to say search for a bump map. We want to take this color into the height. The bump map, the normal into the normal. Well, now we've got something that's kind of hard to see with that. We take that out. So now we've got something, but it's kind of hard to see what it is. If we bring it down, and we come into our rendered view, now we have, again, it's kind of hard to see a little bit, but if we grab our light, move it over here, you see that it is actually kind of, there is actually kind of a bit of a divot to it. Now, if we say make this a constant, bring that back up to 1, it should be, we should be seeing a bit of a line. It's really that easy to see, though, is it? Well, now it is. So let's take that down to a 4 point, not a 9, 4.9. We say this down to 0.5. We have a really nice, and that is actually a bevel. So if we come over here, we see that it's just kind of a very sharp bevel. If we take that down to 0.5, we take down to 0.25. So now it's just a very slight little divot. Say 4.99, that's a very, very small little divot. 1.495. That's pretty nice. I like that. It looks pretty nice. We might dial in the white a bit so that it's a bit further in. Now again, it is inverted. If we leave it at the original, it's good. The shadow is going to be on the other side because it's actually pointing out. But now if we take this and we slap it on here, we have the same type thing, but on this side. And if we bring in, say, our plane here, and we drop that on that plane, well, we kind of screw things up a little bit. And it's going the wrong direction. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we want to spread this out a little bit. So we want to make sure that is a selective one. And we want to rotate it on the Z, I think. No. What if we say... All right, let's be rotate on the X. Well, let's go ahead and pop this in here so that we can see that. Oh, wait a second. No, that's right. Okay. All right, I'm being dumb because we've got this on the there, so we want that there and there because there is no Z-axis on a plane. It is just X and Y. There's no depth to it. So now we want to do the same thing. Oh, right. Okay, so Now we want to do the same thing, but for this one. So we do want it to be the same. If we say, take the color in. So now see, each of them has that specific paneling. But we did lose our back facing because we just... So let's add that back in. So we want back geometry, we want invert. Back facing to the color. And that to the alpha. So now we have that back. And now, if we come in here and we say, go to our models, go to our materials, let's pick a wood texture. We'll take this wood texture and drop it in. So now we can just say, boom, there's this wood texture. It's got a slight bit of, you know, you can still kind of see that. But again, we're going to want to shift that around. But we don't really want that. So we're going to say Control T on that. And say... rotate that on the 90. Stretch this out a bit. Sometimes you just got to play around with it and see what's... Oh, wait. That's on the UV. We want that on... You know what? Let's try something. Let's try taking this, and we want to say UV unwrap, and we actually want to come into the side view, and we want to say UV project from view. Now, if we say do it from the UV. Really weird. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Let's just copy that. I want to paste that into there. And let's say, boom. You see, we've got that really looking really good on those. But maybe we don't want it just there. Maybe we want those divot points to be a darker color. So we're going to need a mix node, which makes it a few clicks more to get to color. So, all right, we were going to want this to be the factor. I'm going to drop you in there. We're going to say put you in that one. So now you see we have those divots. Those divots now create are a slightly different color. So if we say add, well, what if we say dark? Multiply maybe. Screen, no. Overlay, soft light. Sometimes you just got to go through all of them and see what the different things do. Okay, so you know what? Let's try this. Let's say plug you into the secondary. Let's say add. So let's move you guys back so that we're seeing what everything there a bit better. What if we say mix? That looks right, but it's but again, it's backwards. So if we put in another invert to there, wow, that's kind of funky. What if we say value? Again, that is very, very weird. What is going on with you? Is that because of the... So let's take a camera view. Let's just keep the regular color. Alright, so let's bump this up to, let's say let's say a 120. So now we've got a really nice lighting and stuff. That's really showing on those wood paneling. I'm still kind of upset about this one though. This is kind of weird. Say that looks like the right angle. It's losing all definition there. That's really weird. I know, right? It's like, Very dramatic. Very dramatic. Let's say, that's just kind of frustrating, really. The fact that it's just like, yeah, well, you know. Okay, you know what? Let's try something here. Let's try taking this, and we're gonna say go into the UV editor and say face. And say bring you up. Bring all that down to 1, and bring that down to there. We're going to say, okay, now we're just going to take the... That doesn't really do anything, huh? Oh, wait a second. So it actually is rotate on the Z, and we'll get it. That's just weird. That is just really weird. Okay. But anyway, we've got that. So, all right. So we have this, the isometric view. And we can go ahead and kind of kill the GPU a bit. Well, hang on a moment. You know what? Let's go ahead and bring our light rays down again. Let's bring our light paths down to 4, 3, 3, 3, and 8. Well, we'll keep the diffuse at 4. So, all right. If we say take this, boom, we have our isometric view. And then if we go to our scene settings, we say the realistic view. We say take that. And by the way, hello, Kaden. Welcome. So now we have actual panel-looking panels. We actually have like the actual like panel divots showing up in the lighting without changing without actually changing any of our geometry. So we don't have like small little lines in our isometric view. Because if you have some of the faces like actually facing the camera, they will show up, which sucks. Because then you have these like partially like hazy lines here, and it's like it really fucks with your head. But we have the isometric view, which very much looks like a dollhouse, and then we have boom. Hey, you're actually in the room and you can see how things are done. And of course, if we want to really crank up the believability and the look of everything, we straighten everything out here. And then we bring in our normal map. We bring in our roughness. And say the roughness into roughness. We can delete you. We can delete you. Bring you. Oh, God damn it. Move them. Thank you. There we go. Now we say do the roughness into the roughness on this. And the roughness always looks like really, really rough. Like really rough. We can bring down the specular aspect of it, but I don't really like messing with that unless we have to. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in our friend, the color ramp. And we're gonna say boom. Okay, now the blacks. We actually want the black. We don't want it to be a 0. We want it to be like 0.25. So now the really shiny parts are only 0.25 of roughness. They're not perfectly reflective, but they are still reflecting the light a bit. That looks so much better. So much better. And of course, we need to take that and drop that in on this side as well. Now the normal map, we can bring that into there. Though I do believe we're going to need that to line up with that. Okay, there we go. That's better. So now we want to take our normal map and we want to take it into this color into the normal. And instead of sRGB, we want non-color. And wow, that is just really messing. I think that may have completely messed things up, actually. Let's try putting a normal map so that it's at, yes, there we go. Okay, that's right. Any normal map texture needs to go through a normal map node and then into a normal. Minor forgetfulness on my part. My bad. And we do want to make sure, okay, that is set to non-color. So now the normal map, the grain is actually showing, it's kind of popping out a bit. So there's our walls. We have nice wood paneled walls with a bit of a bit of a paneling. Now we can fine tune the paneling a bit and say, hey, I want to move it on the Y. No, I don't want to move it much. But I want to move it to there so that it's kind of centered. That just looks a whole lot better. So how much did we move it by? We moved it by 0.16. So if we say 0.16, oh no, that's right. It's on the X here, 0.16. Boom. So now all of our panels are a lot more centered, which I appreciate. That just looks better. So now we have a full isometric room set up, which is boom. We have it set up. We have paneled wood walls. That's a big step forward. Now, one of the things that I don't like having a point light because it looks like you have a light set up, but like there's no origin point for it. There's no origin point for the light. There's nothing casting the light. So we're gonna do something real quick. We're gonna bring in a cylinder. And I always like to bump it up to 64 vertices rather than 32. And we're going to take it into our texture. We're going to hide our planes. So we're going to say, okay, we want bump it there, grab this face. We're going to want to take off our snapping. We're going to bring this down. Take everything. We're going to say object, set origin to volume. We're going to say scale you down on everywhere but the Z. We're going to bring you in a bit. And we're going to take this face. Hit the period key on the numpad to focus on something. And we're just gonna scale this guy in a bit. We're gonna maybe grab him down a little bit. Scale him in a ways so that it's kind of just this. And we're gonna hit E to extrude. We're gonna bring him up. Hit E to extrude again. And we're gonna say scale it out like this. We're not really going for massive detail. We're just kind of going for a general idea. So we're gonna, and then we're gonna delete this face. Now, with the faces selected, we want to come over here to this bottom world thing, the material properties. We want to add in a new material. We're going to add 2 new materials, and we're going to assign the second one to here. Now, material 1, we're just going to have it be black. We're going to have it be very metallic. And we're going to take the roughness down to about a 0.2. Now, this top one, we actually want as pure white. And I actually want to extrude all of these in just a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit Alt-E to bring up this extrude menu, and we're going to say faces along normals. And we're going to bring you... all right. We're going to actually exit out of the extrude. We're going to resize that, but we're going to only resize it everywhere but the Z. Now that didn't do anything. Okay. Extrude, period, or left click, size, Shift Z, bring it in. That's really weird. Why are you not actually extruding those faces? You're just like moving them. That's... Alright. You know what? We're going to do this the easy way then. We're going to say, bring it out to here. We're going to add in a solidify modifier. Except for even that. Alright, let me see something here. Let's turn on our face orientation. You know what? I don't think it's going to cause that much of a problem, really. I really don't think that's going to cause an issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away our point light, and we're going to say add in a quad sphere. That is part of the extra meshes, and we're going to come up here. We're going to say bring you in. We're going to bring you down. So you're going to sit right there. We're going to create a new material for that. And again, the period point, even on the shading, will take you to what's selected. We'll get rid of that and add in an emission shader. We'll say plug that into the surface. We're going to say about 8. And we're going to come here in this pure white material on the top here. We're going to make that very transmissive. Let's see. We do want to say auto smooth that. So it is now. So if we come into our rendered view, Alright, so we may want to bring you up a bit so that you're just kind of like there. Now if we add in roughness to it, it's gonna be more of a frosted light. So now if we say, which one are we on? We are on the realistic view. We actually, no, god damn it. Wrong button. Okay, there we go. So, all right, we actually want it slot 2, and we're gonna say do the isometric first. So if we say do that, and that is very little lighting. That is very little lighting. Okay, you know what? Let's say select these. I want to delete those faces. And I want to delete that edge. Why are you not deleting that edge? There we go. Okay. So let's bring in another cylinder. I'm going to bring you up. Bring you down there. And let's ease up on our computing skills, computing power a little bit. So we want to take this face. We want to say scale you into about there. Now you, we want to say grab you on the Z. Preferably without that. There we go. We want you there. Now if we say solidify, that should provide us with a really nice now if we say come over here and we want to oh right, because we're in object mode. Auto smooth that. We want to apply that solidify. Now we want to come in here and we want to say delete that. Delete that face. Delete that face. Now if we take our face orientation. Why are you still like Okay. Delete only the faces. Okay, so now we've got good faces on both. That's better. Take face orientation off. We want to say new. We didn't actually want new. We wanted the transmissive one. No, not that one. Not 5. We want 4. Yes. So now if we say, and we actually want to bump this up, well, let's say to 15. If we say there, I think the roughness is what's really screwing with us here. Let's come down here to shader. We're going to say we want the world, and we want to just take that down to 0. Oh, you know what? The IOR, or index of refraction, might be a bit of a problem. Now we have a realistic one. I mean, I suppose we could also just say, you know what, we're going to say nothing there. We're actually going to say add in a, well, we still have that point light. We still have that point light. So we take you, we say grab you down here, grab you on the X. Let's... right there. That is a 120 watt bulb in there, which, you know, kind of seems light, doesn't it? Kind of seems a bit light, but I mean, it's kind of, Blender is a little weird as far as that goes. Blender is a little weird as far as strength of lights and stuff like that. So let's get the rest of our drink here. Now, of course, we could always just say, you know what, we're going to make this just, that's our light source. It doesn't look quite right because it's like, oh my god, who has that bright of a thing? Who has that bright of a light, really? So let's try this. I don't know, that actually looks pretty good. Let's try taking the point light down. Well, let's say it's a 120 watt bulb. Now if we say, take a screenshot. Now you have an actual lamp showing the light, so... So now we actually have what looks like an actual light working properly here. I still would prefer to have just this, so if we say bump that up to, what, 120? Let's save on our rendering as we render this out now. So that is just that end of that sphere creating that light. That is just that sphere creating that light. No point light or anything like that. I like the way that looks, actually. I think that looks pretty good. Now, this, however, that is a really thick, that is a thick boy. So we're gonna bring you in a bit. You in as well. Grab you down so that it's kind of, there's a little bit of a I like that. I like the way that looks. It's naturally lit by just that one lamp. I appreciate that look a lot more. So let's come in here and we're going to say switch our camera over to the realistic view. And we're going to render one out there too. I think we need to actually... I think we need to take that solidify off. So we're gonna redo that. Bring you up here. Come in here, we're gonna grab these faces. Down a bit. Now we're going to say walk you to there. And here we're going to say faces. We're going to squeeze you down to about there. We're going to bring you down to about here. Size you in a bit. Let's say take you. We want you at 5? No, 4. And auto smooth. We also want to auto smooth you. If we say boom. Now we have a realistic looking light. A realistic looking, very basic torchère style lamp. Now typically that top face would be gone. And we might actually need to size you down a bit. Let's take the isometric view. Let's do a shot there. So it's not lighting as much, but it's actually probably lighting a bit more realistic. It shouldn't be like, you wouldn't have one lamp just like illuminating everything crystal clear. That's very unrealistic. So let's do the realistic camera, the more on point camera. I like that. I like it. Now if we say you, and you, we say Control J to join them all, and say grab you on the X, grab you on the Y, we're going to put you here, then we're going to duplicate you on the X and put another one in the corner. So now with two of them, we have two lights, and it's good. Now I know, a lot of people that work with Blender a lot will be like, no, you want to use Blender's light, but in Cycles, I always find it in Cycles, it looks more realistic if you have a mesh object emitting the light. That is a personal preference. That is just a personal preference. And if we say add in a cube, we're gonna set it on the floor here, just to show. So now see, we have the top of the cube, which is really in the light, is showing crystal clear. It's showing beautifully. But the far side that's facing us is just lit by the reflected light. It's one of the benefits of Cycles is you have the rebound lighting. So this side of the cube is actually lit by the plane that we are looking through. That's why it kind of has that brownish tinge to it. That's why it's so much darker. It has that brownish tinge to it. Now if we come here and we say, all right, let's go back to slot 1. Let's go to our isometric view. We say render that. Now you have the really nice shadow. You know, you can see the really nice shadow and everything. You can actually see some of the wood through this, because it's partially being lit from the bulb, but it's also it's being backlit by the wood. I like that. Now, of course, we can make a very simplistic chair by saying, taking this cube, we're going to duplicate it. We're going to scale it on the X, grab it on the Y, or grab it on the Z, grab it on the Y, out to here, and maybe bring it down to there. Right, we need to turn that off. So now if we hit Control A, apply the scale, we can just say, boom. Control minus to do a difference Boolean. And we can still say, all right, it needs to be a bit wider. Maybe it needs to come up, probably come down a bit more. Now if we duplicate this one, we want to grab this one on the Y, or on the Z. We want to scale it out on the X. Again, Control A to apply the scale first, then hit that with another Control minus. We have a very, very simplistic chair. Now, if we just grab this and say boom, it's gonna mess up our stuff. So, but if we come over to this little wrench here and we say apply those booleans, then we can say take our cutters, hide those, and we can grab you on the Y, move you back to here. And if we take a screenshot, now we have a very simplistic throne type chair. It's probably a bit long. Let's be honest, it's probably a bit long. I don't think anybody's upper legs are that long. So if we add in another cube, grab it here, grab it on the Z. We want to scale it on the Z. You always want it a little bit bigger than what you're cutting, because otherwise the side faces will really mess with you. Let me say grab you on the Y. Now we say apply the scale, Shift select that, Control minus. And now we can change the depth of the chair without changing any of the actual geometry. And I just hit Control A while hovering over that one to apply that move. Hide that. Take another screenshot. Again, very, very basic seating, very, very basic lighting. Not really worrying about adding in textures and stuff like that. Change that to the realistic view. We change our slot from slot 1 to slot 2. And we say screenshot. And there we go. And this is why I like using the isometric to set up something, because we can say, just go to the isometric view. You get a really good viewing of the layout of of everything. And stuff like that. You can even get a good screenshot of, you can get a good screenshot of what it's going to look like isometrically. And again, if you look at it isometrically, it looks like a dollhouse because, well, it is a dollhouse, basically. But if you go to the more realistic view, boom, you can have that. Now, if we change to the realistic camera, and we say, all right, I want to grab you on the X, I want to move you over, and then rotate on the Z. And just move you in so that you're not really seeing much of the outside of it or anything like that. And we say, okay, make sure it's, you know what, we're going to go ahead and make this slot 3. And if we take a rendered view, the camera might be a little bit high. It might be a little bit high. So we could say grab it on the Z and move it down so that it's just on the edge of the floor. And you have a really good view of things. And just to kind of show off some of the things, a few of the things that are easy to do with Blender, we're also going to say we're going to come to File and Append. Now I have a few different things that I've set up, obviously. We can say there we want to append something from the captain's office. We want to go to Collections. And we want to say, I think it's this one. I think it's Cadence Astronaut. Oh, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Nope. Okay. We're going to Control Z that out. We're going to come back up to File, Append, Cadence Astronaut 01. Okay. So I need to find the right one. Bridge Captain's Office. That's the one. Again, we want to go into Collections. We want to say Caden Astronaut 01. That should be one of Caden Sitting, which also has a bunch of extra stuff. make sure we don't have our isometric. Okay, isometric camera is not there. Okay. You. So now we just brought in Caden. Rotate him on the Z by 90 degrees. And scale him down because he is way too big. Which is kind of funny to say something about somebody who is basically like, I think, 1 or 2 inches taller than me. It's a whole lot easier if you already have, a model that's posed right. Posing is something we will get into at another time. So we can now say scale you on the X to bring it in. It's not that bad, really, as far as height goes. Now if we say take the faces, we say grab this face, bring it up to his butt. Say object, make sure we grab the armature, not the model. Just make sure to bring this up. Alright, let's do it a reverse way so that we're... Alright, there we go. That's better. There. And that's just for shits and giggles, basically, for the end of the for the end of everything, just to, because I always like to bring a character into it proper. So we have the realistic view, right? Wait, why is Caden's face not showing? Why is Caden's face not showing? Ah, because I have it, for some reason it is zeroed out. That's not good. Oh, right, because that was just the that was just one that I had made for sitting at the ship's thing. Right. Okay. No problem. No problem. Right. You actually do need to go down a bit more though. Yes, because you were kind of hovering there. There we go. That's better. And that is one of the tricky things, is getting things lined up just right with the bottom, so it's like, so things aren't like hovering, so you don't see like a massive shadow underneath them. That's just messed up. Now, maybe the torsiere should be a bit higher, so we're going to come in here. We're going to say select faces. We're going to hit this little box in a box for X-ray view. We're going to grab all of that. We're going to say grab you and up to about there. We're going to do the same thing with you. X-ray view. Grab you. You know what? Let's say... Boom. So now we have very tall torsiers. Very, very tall torsiers. but I like it. It's like I said, a lot of this is very, very basic stuff. Now we're gonna say control there. Yes. Okay. Object. You. All right. Let's say you. We want you like right there, and you right about there. Now if we come in here, we say this should be slot 2, where it's like dead on. And we take another screenshot. We take another render. Again, like a lot of this lighting, especially further out, is, you know, is actually more about is more lit by the ceiling than anything else. This by bounce lighting. All right, maybe we need to come in a bit more. Not there. That looks good. Yeah, so now you can't see anything outside of the room. You're just looking through the wall. You're looking at the room itself. Scale of everything is a bit off, but that's manageable. We can deal with that. That's something we will work on another time. And then if we want to say we want, just so that we have all of the 3 different views to really compare, I actually want to bring you up to 0.25. So isometric view. Again, the isometric view looks just like it looks like a kid's play set. But then you go to the more realistic view, and you have much more dramatic stuff. You can even do like an angled view still. But yeah, having a good isometric setup is very important. It's very, very key. Now there is a whole bunch of stuff as far as, you know, if you want to actually like model out the walls specifically, you can. You just have to remember to turn those off. Turn those off, but leave the planes on if you want to do like capture an isometric view. If you're doing a head-on view like our slot 2 here, you can have, you know, you just have to have one that's just that's just a plane that you can see through, but you still want it colored properly. Because let's go ahead and add in another quad sphere here. I'm going to scale it down. We're going to put on a new material. We're going to make it very metallic. We're going to make it completely shiny. And we're going to do slot 4. We're going to render it. If you have anything that's going to show the back wall, the wall that you are looking through, you absolutely want that to have something to reflect properly. Now, of course, our light bounces and stuff are kind of are marked way down. But you see, if there's like a mirror behind the seat or something like that, or like a really shiny shield that's showing everything, it's going to show that back wall properly, and that is important. That is very important, because it's like we don't see the 4th wall, but the 4th wall has to be there in reflections. Otherwise, it's going to really ruin the effect. It's going to ruin. Yeah, it's just going to ruin everything. So, Now to show you exactly how much the ceiling is, we're gonna say U, and we're gonna make this just the ceiling. Just the ceiling is gonna be pure red. So the ceiling's gonna be pure red, and we're gonna see how that affects the lighting. And this is why cycles will always, I prefer cycles to Eevee. Because all we did was change the color of the ceiling, and all of a sudden, everything has this red hue, because except for where the light is directly hitting and bouncing off the wall and into the camera, everything else has this reddish hue. Because it's the light bouncing off of the ceiling and down onto the floor, or down onto the wall, or down onto the chair, that's what's giving it the color. That is why cycles is, in my opinion at least, is a better choice for rendering. It takes more as far as your GPU and your graphics card and stuff like that, but it adds a lot more. So if we were to, say, go to the isometric view, go into slot 5, and we're going to render that. Now it takes a lot longer. It takes a lot longer to render because, well, it is rendering, it's rendering those bounces, it's rendering the color from those ray bounces and stuff like that. But from here, if that ball wasn't there, you couldn't tell that the ceiling is red. So it's just like you have that kind of almost eerie type of difference as far as the color. Because like I said, where the light is directly hitting the walls, it's like, oh no, the walls are just normal brown. But once you get out to the point where it's not a direct light bounce from the light wall camera, it's more light bounces off the wall, but it has a little bit of the ceiling bounce too. It just looks so much cooler because it's that red. So if we want to make it look really kind of more of a sci-fi-ish thing, we do more of a green color. And you have that kind of almost like Romulan green, but it's like I said, when you look at the walls, it's like, but that's not the color of the walls or anything. That's just the color of the direct light bouncing off the ceiling and coloring everything. And it adds so much to it. So if we go to the realistic view, if we said bring you, nope, I want to select the camera, grab you up, rotate it on the X, and we rotate it down so that we're not actually seeing the ceiling. We pinch it in a bit so that we're inside, we're not seeing any of the extras. We delete that cue, that sphere. And just to differentiate, we're going to take it there. And again, because of the ray bounces and everything, it's really kind of slowing things down here. Also because I'm streaming. But yeah, so it's everything that has no color to its itself is just kind of picking up just the green. But you can see from there, it's like, it's not really green. It's just, yeah, it adds a little bit of a hint of color to everything because it's bouncing off of that. Now we could say, you know, hey, we want to take the saturation down to a 0.25 so that it's very, very light, a very, very light green, not like this deep, dark green. And again, we wait for it to render. Almost there. Nearly there. There we go. So it's still, you still have that gray coloring, but it's just got this slight hint of green that you're not really sure where that's from. It's like, well, it could be, you know, the further away you get, the more green you get because you're not getting direct lighting from the lamps. You're getting a slight hint of green on the walls. You're getting a slight hint of green on the character. It just adds that slight touch of eeriness to it that it's like, wait, why? What? The color's a little bit weird, and it adds it to everything all at once. Again, ever since I got a decent graphics card in my computer, I only do things in cycles. Now, if we increase if we go to our little camera settings here, our render properties, we can increase the samples. For example, if we go to the rendered view, we bring back all of those. And we say, bring it up to the camera. And we just let it sit there and render. You can see up in the corner right about here that it's continuously rendering more and more samples. Now the noise threshold is lower for the viewport renderings. Let's match it to that. It's still got a little bit of roughness and stuff like that, but again, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's one of those points where it's like, you know, your viewport's always going to look a little bit worse. Now, at this rate, it took 28 seconds to render 192 samples, so it would take a lot longer to render a full 120 or 1024, which is 1K. That's normal HD settings. I might go ahead and render it out afterwards and kind of post it on like Discord and stuff just to show what the difference is. But yeah, your renders, your max samples are going to affect how clean it is, as is your light pass. If I was going to render this out, as something, I would probably go with 8 total, 4 on everything, and probably like 16 on transparent. Though we don't really have anything that's transparent, so it wouldn't really matter. But yeah, I'll probably do that. I will probably do that after we're done here. And like I said, I'll post it to. So let's go ahead and say image save as. And we're going to name it stream 1. 192 samples, and we're gonna say save image. Like I said, I'll render it out at a much higher rate and everything, and then post it to Discord later on after the stream. But I think that gives you a good idea as to how to get things set up as far as doing isometrics and stuff like that. The difference as far as lighting and everything. What you use as far as lighting is very dependent on what your preferences are. My personal preference is I prefer actual mesh objects emitting the light rather than throwing in a light, because they don't always show up in camera views and stuff like that. And it starts to get to the point where it's like, where is the light? Where's the light really coming from? But anyway, that's going to be it for our first Workshop Wednesday. I think next week we're probably going to look at like making a room and building some actual furniture and stuff like that. As always, thank you guys very much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you're new here, don't forget to press the subscribe button. If you want to be kept up to date of when we go live and stuff like that, make sure to ring the bell, but also check out the social media links down below, the Facebook page, the Twitter account, the Tumblr account, and the permanent invite for the Discord server, where you can see the much better render that I'm going to do after the fact. All that so that you can stay tuned for more from Ollamh Productions. Cheerio!